Pleased to be joined now by the newest inductee into Canada's Sports Hall of Fame. I know there's a smile in there somewhere, Sheldon Kennedy, and there it is. Quite the honor. How do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, it is. It's a huge honor, and I guess upon reflection, it's just a lot of gratitude. I never would have thought that Sheldon Kennedy would be in any Hall of Fame or receive any awards, and definitely, not during my NHL career for sure. But we've come a long ways, and we've managed to hang in there and do some work around issues that carried a lot of fear. And thankfully that I'm just so proud that people value the work that we're doing enough to acknowledge how important it is to say that this deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, Canada Sports Hall of Fame.
Listen, you've helped thousands, and we can't say thank you to you enough. As Canadians, who do you think of at a moment like this?
Well, you know what? I have a very good friend of mine. His name's Wayne McNeil. He's been with me from the start. We have since 1998 when we rollerbladed across this country. I think of Wayne. I also think of all the people that helped along the way. When we started talking about these issues, 24 years ago, they weren't real popular. But you know what? There was enough leaders within sport and within our communities to say, you know what, this is important, and we're gonna make a difference. And I think that's who I think of. And I also think of all of the other athletes that have brought their voice to the table, over the years. And I've also think about how we've shifted the way we think about these issues. It's there's one thing about the incident, and then there's another thing that what we really deal with, and that's the impact. And the impact is real, even though a lot of times we can't see it. But when we talk about mental health issues, a lot of them come from these types of incidences that happen to kids and as young athletes or young students, or whether it's in the family home or wherever it might be. So there's a lot of people that I think about. Sheldon, this hasn't been my own journey as far as doing this stuff myself. I have a lot of people that have helped me along the way. What we've learned is that sports has a platform. We have a platform to make a difference in our communities beyond sport.
Sheldon, there must have been along the way, and listen, I can only imagine the nature of the conversation when you began your rollerblading across the country in '98 to where it's at now. I would imagine along the way, there must have been some tentpole moments, some impact moments where you realized, hold on a second here, this is taking root and we're eventually going to see some fruit because of it. What were some of those moments where Sheldon Kennedy said that this is changing and for the better?
Well, Jeff, one of the biggest fears that I had was that nobody's going to believe me when I was thinking I was going to tell my story.
Yeah.
And I'm probably the only person that this has ever happened to. And I was left basically with no choice, that I need to tell my story, or I probably wouldn't, be around. So I did, and people believed me. And what I found out when my story hit the papers was that I wasn't the only one. We had received thousands, tens of thousands of letters from individuals around the world telling their stories, and it seemed to be, people wanted me to be that voice. I don't know if I've ever made a decision to say this is what I'm going to do. It's people have kind of kept bringing me back into this space to be the voice, and I've been very honored to do that. But that was one. I knew I was never alone. The other one was when I was rollerblading across the country, I received, this conversation had to happen outside of town in most places. People couldn't tell us what was going on in their life, and they had to wait till we were outside of town on the road, rollerblading down the road, and they would disclose to us something that was going on in their life. And what I realized is that this was not just about sexual abuse. This was about all forms and all types of abuse. And what I realized at this point was that the type of abuse, the person, the place, the time was different, but the impact was very, very consistent as we went across the country, and what people were struggling with: depression, mental health, anxiety, addiction. I mean, the list goes on, right? So that was another one. And then I think, one of the big things was Jeff Natchuk out of the Sport Manitoba saying, you know what, we're gonna make this mandatory training, for all of our coaches. Wayne, my business partner, and I formed a company called Respect Group, and we train coaches and parents, school teachers, and corporations across this country. We've trained over 1.4 million people. Those were big points for us, and I think where we've really got to, and I think I kind of had a realization about 5 years ago, Jeff, is that when we first started doing this work, if you had a prevention program in place, that meant you had problems, right, in your organization. Where, you know what, we're at a point now where if you don't have a prevention program in place, we're not signing up. So it's gone from, oh boy, we're not signing up because they have problems, to basically a retention and a recruitment and an expectation of an organization.
That's outstanding. And Sheldon, when I think of you, and you go in as a builder, and again, we all owe a big thank you to Sheldon Kennedy. I think you've been a light. I think you've been a ladder. I think you've been a life raft. You've been a lot of things to a lot of people, going back to when your journey began. What are you most proud of?
Well, I'm most proud of basically finding a way out of it, right? I think becoming healthy myself, and I think for a long time I wasn't healthy, and I know even when I first started telling my story, even though I was doing the best I could with what I had, I still had a lot of work to do, because what I realized quickly, Jeff, is that by telling your story, it almost makes things worse until you can figure it out. And I think by getting healthy, it's allowed me to shift the message from telling Sheldon's story to really being able to work with organizations and to be able to understand these issues, to be able to move and push legislation. We spoke at U.S. Congress. I mean, we changed all types of pieces of legislation, and I think I would have never done that if I hadn't have got sober and continually deal with my mental health and the impacts of what happened to me. And I think that's probably been the biggest gift. And and I didn't get there alone. I mean, I had lots of people helping me get to that place, but being able to have a family, I think, is absolutely critical. And I have a new son in my life, and 22 months old, so he keeps me hopping, right? Keeps things real. And I think that is what I'm most proud of, because the rest of it, I think it's important with these issues. We have to show people that there's a way out, and that you can get better, and that you can get well. And I think when I think of Sheldon Kennedy and the issues that I represent going into Canada's Sports Hall of Fame, I think that shows hope for others. Not just Sheldon, but the issues that we represent. That I mean, if I look at my career, I mean, I was best known, Jeff, for going into treatment centers, mental health hospitals, psych wards, and being arrested. Right? Who would have ever thunk Sheldon Kennedy would have ever been in a Hall of Fame? Like, not very many people. So I think, to me, when I look at it, that's important, because what I know about these types of issues, and a lot of the mental health issues that people struggle with, is that they never believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel. They never believe that they can feel better or they can achieve that. So, I think that's what I'm most proud of, and being able to stick with it.
Those are beautiful words. I do want to ask, what's over your left shoulder right now? It looks like the dream catcher hanging on your wall right now must have a story attached to it, Sheldon. True or false?
Very true. That dream catcher, I received that in in Sydney when I was rollerblading across the country. And I received that from an elder lady, and they presented me with that to give me strength along my journey around the rollerblade across this country. Well, that dream catcher is probably 4 feet by 4 feet, and it sat in the back of our RV all the way across Canada. It sat in a storage room as I was trying to figure out where I was going to live. It sat in the Child Advocacy Center, the former Sheldon Kennedy Child Advocacy Center, with 15,000 kids that had been through that, all at a level that they could rip it and tear it, and it never broke. And so it is here in my office, and it gives me strength every day. And I spent a lot of time, getting well in sweat lodges and fasting, and I spent a lot of time, and I think that our Indigenous culture gave me some guidance in finding a higher power and getting sober.
It gave you strength, and you and your work have given Canadians strength for years. Before we conclude, I do want to ask you, what does this honor mean to you, Sheldon?
Well, like I say, I think, Jeff, I didn't do this work to receive awards, but I'm absolutely proud and honored to receive this award for the issues that we represent. Because for a long time, the issues of abuse, bullying, harassment, discrimination never received any awards. And I think that, it places a value and importance on making sure that we're doing everything we can as a community and as a society and as a country to make sure that we're addressing these issues. So that, to me, is what I feel this represents. And for me personally, I kind of go with the issues. So I'm proud, and I'm proud, and it makes it. I think these gives you time to reflect of all the people that have helped along the way, right? And a lot of people.
A lot of people. It takes a lot, and it takes someone to lead the charge, and that has always been you. You have made this entire country richer for your existence and all the work that you've done. It's a great honor. We can't think of someone who deserves it more than you, Sheldon. Congratulations. It's a great look on you, Sheldon.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate that.